I saw you for the first time under pillars and spotlights, but when you spoke, the stone turned oak and the electricity became stars. The air was dense where we stood, but the breaths you let out after each bundle of words sent life into the emptiness, and I found myself gasping with you, holding tightly on to every verse you bent like an anxious child holds its parent's hand, terrified to let go and never get it back. It was months before I saw you again in that same dense space with its brick pillars and harsh spotlights. You were still beautiful magic, drinking in the ordinary and dealing out wonder and awe. You smiled often, and the shape it turned the room made me want to fashion it into flowers and give away to strangers. But more months went by before I saw it again, this time up close, and it made all the boiling blood I'd been harboring turn into balloons. I floated away on them, braiding the flowers into my hair. But all of a sudden you were everywhere, and I began hoping every shadow was yours because everywhere wasn't enough for me. Every time we spoke, I'd feel daydreams fucking in the back of my head, multiplying, waiting until you were gone to fill me with more thoughts of you. They were childish at first. I think of blushing madly when I accidentally brushed your hand, or smiling and looking away when I'd pass you in the hall. But the more brilliance you sprinkled into my life, the more intense the daydreams breathed, like a wildfire consuming the desires of a sea of people, endless and unquenchable. Would the first time you kissed me be rough and surprising, like passing heat between our teeth, or would your fingertips plant seeds of anticipation on my cheeks before you laced your lips to mine? Would you let me speak in books about myself over herbal teas and vegan cakes, and would you treasure the volumes I produced like first and only editions, reading and rereading them until you memorized the rhythm in my waves and could brave the stormy sea? And after you had learned all the nooks and crannies of the parts that mattered most, would you ask me for my body's star charts? Would you study them until you knew me like your childhood home, so even in the dead of night you could travel to all the switches, press them on until it became a melting structure of screaming, sweating sunlight? Would you propose to me riverside under my favorite tree? Or would you take us back to the pillar, spotlight-dense place where I first learned your name? Or would you promise to wrap me in not only hugs, but poetry for the rest of our days? Would you cry while slipping silver onto our fingers? Would you pick me up and spin me around like in the movies? Or would you stay kneeling, holding my hands to your dampening cheeks? And when we got married, would you write our story into our sheets so that every time we woke up, whether it be from a night of post-fight, back-to-back separateness, or passionate, gasping togetherness, our skin would be stained with the promises we'd made when we still believed in soul?